Welcome to Haynes Motor Museum and to the Red Car Rumble talk. I'm going to be talking about the rise and fall of the British sports car using 4 examples to tell the story. Let's go and take a look. Now, when visitors first come to the Red Room, they usually go, wow, and look at the sea of red cars and go, well, why all these red cars? And there's a really nice explanation, because John Haynes, who is obviously the founder of the museum, the man behind the manuals, you know this, John Haynes loved red, but he also wanted an exhibition space where all the cars were the same colour, so people could concentrate on the styling and design of the cars. Rather than saying, oh, is it a red or yellow or green or whatever colour, let's concentrate on the styling and design, and that fits perfectly with our talk. Because the story I'm going to tell, and actually I need your help to help me tell the story, is the rise and fall of the British sports car. That's our story. I'm going to illustrate that story by using 4 examples of cars, 2 British cars and a German car and a Japanese car, to tell the story. And I think it's a great story of success and then not so much success. What we're going to be doing is I'm going to be posing a couple of questions to you. The first one is, I am genuinely interested in your views on the styling of the 4 cars I've chosen. It's totally subjective, there's no right or wrong answer. Of course I have my favourites, but I'm not going to give that away. But I'm genuinely interested in what you think of the styling and how you would describe the cars. The second question is more to do with, why are they styled in this way? Why do they look like this? And again, there's no right or wrong answer, but the variety of answers are really interesting in helping us to tell the story of the rise and fall of the British sports car. So, what we're going to do is move over and look at the first car, which is the MG/TC. Okay. This is the object of our attention from 1946, the MG/TC. So, let me ask for your comments on the styling. What words spring to mind?
Upright.
Upright, yep. See the grille, right? The radiator grille, because genuine radiator grille. Any other comments? What words spring to mind?
I started motoring motorcycles first in the late 50s. And that was the car to have.
Was it?
Yeah, when I was riding, I thought, oh, I'd like one of those.
It's the aspirational car,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's good. So, as a motorbike rider, important part of the story of British motoring story, as a motorbike rider, you really wanted a car, didn't you? And one of these. So, why did you want it?
I don't really know, but there seemed to be quite a lot about in those days, and it was the one. Well, look, it's more comfortable. Perhaps I could get a couple of kids in the back, type of thing. But I didn't have any kids then. But that was the car.
All right. Okay. Any other comments about the styling? What springs to mind?
One of the last cars that featured running boards.
Well,
not running board, but where the wing sweeps down into the.
Good comment. Yeah. I mean, so we've got the wing over the wheel, the large wheel. Swings down into what are called running boards. It goes back to the olden days of coaches and things like that, where people would ride on the running boards. And it's very low, it's very narrow, isn't it? Sleek. Yeah. See how narrow it is. Sleek.
Suicide doors as well, isn't it?
Yeah. It's got suicide doors, and by that we mean the doors open at the back. All right, open at the back, and they swing this way. It's a bit temperamental, this one, so I won't do it. And you can imagine what it would be like to ride in one of these. You wanted to.
I'd like to, yes.
A pretty rough ride. 2 what are called live axles, right? Very poor springing, right? Front and rear live axles. So it's jolting about a bit. Any Morgan owners here will know what I'm talking about. Okay. It's a convertible, of course, and if you wanted the true wind in your hair experience, this folded forward. So if you really wanted it, no windscreen at all. When they were raced, people would have a sort of little window there to keep it. I won't fold this one forward because it is a little temperamental. British sports car from the 40s, they're temperamental. Alright, so 4-cylinder engine, 1250cc, good for about 78 miles an hour, something like that, but wasn't very fast to accelerate. Nearly 23 seconds to 60. Right, but it felt fast. That's the key point. I mean, look, you see these, you know, you mentioned the motorbike. Well, I think they took the tyres off a motorbike and put them on a car.
Almost.
Because they see the size of them.
Yeah.
They're narrow, large. Sorry?
What size are they?
I do not know. 17s, perhaps? No, you went there more than that. Yeah, I can't see from this. Yeah. Don't know.
19.
19.
Yeah, 450 19s.
Same
Right.
size as a lot of motorbike wheels.
Yeah, yeah.
19s, yeah.
Good point. Good point. Okay. Now, why do you think it looks like this? Why does it look like this? Why this styling? Any ideas? I mean, there's no right wrong answer.
It's like it's come from a coach. Gentlemanly or something, maybe, I don't know.
It's like it's come from a coach and it's gentlemanly.
Yeah, I
yes.
think so.
Yes. Two really relevant points. It looks old, doesn't it? Right. It looks almost from a different age, even though this is 1946. And the reason why looks like it's from a different age because it was from a different age, right? It was pre-war.
Yeah. That was when we were riding the old one, before the war.
That's it.
'Cause it wasn't long after the war, and new cars were a bit rare in those days.
That's a really good point. So the average person, the average family even, rode around on motorbikes post-war, right? Because there were very few cars around. They were very expensive because purchase tax was very high because the economy was completely strapped for cash. And all the designs and the engineering was pre-war. Obviously, for 6 years during wartime, they'd spent their time tanks, aircraft, and all the rest of it. So they had to reach back to the 30s and use those designs. Any other comments about what economic conditions were like post-war, 1945, 1946? What were the conditions?
Tight.
Tough.
Tough and tight.
Tough and tight, yeah. Shortage of money all round. Obviously, country had been at war for 6 years, and there was rationing. Right, raw materials like steel were in short supply, as well as basic foods were in short supply. They were still being rationed. So what government did was to direct raw materials like steel towards producers who were prepared to sell their goods overseas. If you were willing to sell your cars to the USA, that was great news because that brought in dollars. And we had a massive war debt to the USA because of the help that they provided during the Second World War. So this car was a big success in the USA. In fact, I'm surprised you saw too many of them around. It may be you saw some of the pre-war ones.
Could well be. We used to go to a lot of the motorcycle races, and quite a few of the people watching were in a car like that.
Yeah.
As on the way home, we'd laugh if we could overtake them.
Oh, you probably...
Oh, yeah,
well,
it wasn't too different.
a bike would do 60, 70 miles an hour, I suppose.
The Americans loved them, didn't they?
They-
American soldiers.
They absolutely loved them because the American soldiers who'd been stationed over here saw these being driven about the same way you had and said, I want one of those, right? Because this was the car of choice, or one's pre-war MGs, of the Spitfire pilot, the fighter pilot, all right? It was a pretty hairy thing to drive. And the Americans over here said, yeah, I want one of these. And some of them were physically taken back to the US and others, MG started exporting them. So they were fairly rare. You may have seen some of the 30s MGs, because if you look in Morris garages, which is a display area on the other side of the museum, you see they look very like this. So MG seized the opportunity and started to sell the cars over in the States, and they were a big hit, not just because of the GIs. What were American cars like at the time? Any idea? Massive great things from the 30s and 40s. We've got plenty of them. This has got Britain written all over it, hasn't it? Right? This is harking back to kind of the good old days. No mod cons, no electric windows. Few cars had that. Certainly no autos. This was sort of basic ball motoring, and it was a big success as a racer as well, because it's so basic. And MG stuck with it, right? The successive cars, C, D, F, and so on, followed. One last little thing about the badge. Now, usually you've got to be under 10 to answer this question, so you know we don't qualify here. But you know what MG stands for? Morris Garages. Yeah. You're the wrong audience to ask this question, right? Herbert Morris, as we know, the sort of Henry Ford of Britain, set up this sort of offshoot, this sporty offshoot. He wanted to call it something different. He called it Morris Garages, shortened to MG. So the badge is quite a collector's item, and we think, we're not sure, that the octagon here resembles racetracks. It's not been proven. If you think of a racetrack like Goodwood or somewhere like that, which is basically sort of an oval, that's our best guess. And of course it's still around. Some of you might own an MG, I don't know. Chinese owned, mixture of ICE and electric cars. But certainly a very valuable brand. Okay, we better stop there. We're going to move on to our second one, which is the TR4A, if you know your TRs, over where the red panels are. Okay? Let's imagine we're back in the mid-60s, okay? That doesn't apply to all of us here, right? Let's imagine we're back in the mid-60s and you want to buy yourself a sports car. What would you buy? One of these? All right, okay.
It was prolific as the MGs not long after the war. Yes, a lot of those are.
Triumph TR4A, this is, yeah. But if you didn't buy one of these, what else might you buy?
That.
What, this?
Cheaper.
No, the TR3A or this? The Spitfire?
Spitfire, yeah. No, go-kart.
You're not. We might have said that in the 60s, we wouldn't say it now. So Triumph Spitfire would have been cheaper, £600–700. Right, just for frame of reference, average salaries in the mid-60s about £1,000. Right, might be as low as 500 or as high as 1,500, but about, call it £1,000 just for average. So we could buy a Spitfire, yeah. Anything else we might buy?
I had a Mini.
You had a Mini?
That's all I could afford.
Well, yeah, but a Mini was about £500 new.
Minivan we started.
Minivan, what was that? About 400, I think.
Yeah, no purchase tax on the van.
That was the smart way to go. That really was the smart way to go.
Put windows in it.
Well, you're not supposed to do that. So we might buy a Mini, but we want a sports car. All right.
We've got the MG.
MGB. We've got an MGC over there, just for interest. MGC.
Yeah, that's nice.
And we've got an MGA there. So we might go Spitfire, MGB. Let's imagine we've got plenty of money. What would you buy? British sports car.
What year did they come out? I can't remember.
Oh, Marcos.
Or the E-Type, for instance.
Yeah, E-Type, right? So frame of reference, an E-Type, I've got one in the foyer, you've seen it, about £2,000. All right, so twice an annual salary, about £2,000. If not, we go for one of these, yeah? This seems like that. So why would you be attracted to one of these?
I got taken out of one on the back roads. It's really interesting and quick.
Was it a 4A?
Yeah, the IRS one.
That's it. The A has better suspension. Independent rear suspension. Remember, there was no independent suspension on the MG. So yeah, so quick.
Very quick.
Yeah.
Kind of comfortable when it was actually on the road as opposed to leaping off the road.
What do we think of the design, the styling?
Gorgeous.
Yeah. Is that the consensus? Yeah. Well, it is a word that's used about a car. It's pretty. I don't know. What do you think? I'm conscious to get a variety of
I always
words.
went for that model.
This one, the TR3.
It's a lot more streamlined, this one now.
This one's more streamlined, but that looks more traditional, shall we say.
Well,
Upright grille, for instance.
that is very interesting. I like the word traditional because this is non-traditional. Plenty of go in this car. We'll have a look on it in just a moment or two. But a good ride. I mean, Jeff actually owns one of these, not this car. Was yours a 67, Jeff?
It's a 67, yeah. Yeah, it's an IRS, very comfy. You know, I've done some long trips in it, and it is, the seats are comfy as well.
And this one's got, it's
White, mine is. White, yeah.
Yeah. I should say that we have outdoor displays in the summer, May to September. Jeff, along with a number of other volunteers, bring their cars along, and we bring some museum cars along as well. So we're driving around in the paddock area, and you can sit in them and sort of admire the Nissan Micra from about, I think it's 82. They're not all Nissan Micras. So it's a nice looking car. So any other comments about the styling, the design?
It's got an aggressive stance.
You think so?
Yeah, with the headlights coming out.
And it's still got the sports car, wire wheels and knock-off hub type of thing.
Yeah. So there's a bit of tradition there, but a bit of 60s modern. Yeah, a bit of Italian. You're right. You know, why does it look like this? It's an Italian designer.
Is it? I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got that.
Because this is not a non-Italian designer. We go back to traditional British sports car. This is an Italian designer, Michelotti, right? A famous designer who would design Ferraris and things like that. And Triumph employed Michelotti to try and make their cars look a bit different. And he designed things like the Triumph Herald. You might know the Triumph Herald. Right? I think he did the Vitesse as well.
Yeah,
Jeff's got a Vitesse. You're restoring it, aren't you?
Yeah, slowly.
So, and he did the Triumph 2000. So Triumph were trying to compete with Ford and Austin Morris. They wanted things that look a bit different. Right? Austin Morris was seen to be a bit plain, perhaps not the Mini, but a bit plain. Ford were a bit American. They wanted something that looked different. Right? And there's so many lovely details on this. I mean, you look at the side lights and the indicators. And my wife mentioned me the chrome strip that runs along the side of the wings there. Personally, it's one of my favourites, but I'm stating the obvious here. So Italian designer. Now we'll have a look under the bonnet in just a second or two. One thing I just want to draw your attention to, which is the badge. You probably come a bit closer. You know. The world, yeah. It's a globe. Right? No, well, they brought this badge back for the TR4, it was a 4 and 4A, wasn't it, I think?
No, just the 4A.
Just the 4A?
Yeah.
Good, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
And the slogan was, what was it? Triumph around the world.
All over the world.
Triumph all over the world.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful play on words, isn't it? Triumph, the brand, triumphs around the world. And it's a bit of a sad story, because this is the final use of this badge. And as Triumph then disappeared into British Leyland, BL, then the badge disappeared. And if you look at the badge, there's a couple of other Triumphs, which are more like sort of painted on logos on the TR8. Whereas this is a nice old.
So this is the badge that was used on most of the.
Let's pick up. So we've told half the story. We've told half the story. We've spoken about the rise of the British sports car. We've looked at the MG, and we've looked at the TR4A, and we've seen the importance of the American market, stimulating production, creating income. We're now going to tell the second part of the story, and we're going to begin with the Porsche 356. So obviously German manufacturer. This is a really important car for Porsche. Really important car. It was the first car that had Porsche's name on it, and it was the car that really set the template for Porsche sports cars. Many of you will know the 911. The 911 actually has a very similar layout to this. Now it's water cooled, but this set the template. Now I am really interested in what you think of this one, because I've probably done these talks throughout February, and opinion has been divided on its styling. So your chance.
Boring.
Sorry?
Boring.
Boring. Oh.
They've taken away the prettiness, but made it smoother and kind of more streamlined. But
I don't care.
lost some of that Britishness. Is not there, is it?
Well, it's a Beetle, isn't it? It's from Stuttgart. It's a Beetle. So it is a bit. Yeah, I mean, underneath it, the early ones and even this one was a Beetle, and there's a reason for that. It's to some extent it's been squashed down and smoothed over a bit. This car's not getting a lot of love here, is it?
No.
Is there anyone who likes it?
No.
I do. It's you kind of look. It's older because it's a C-plane, isn't it? So it's 65. 65, yeah. So it's kind of gone back a little bit to what we saw, but it's just more aerodynamic. It's hardtop, isn't it? So it's fixed top, isn't it?
Yeah. There's hardly a flat surface on it. It's almost as if it's been smoothed out. It's got a fast back body, and it's got sort of delicate use of chrome. Now you might say, Nick, well, what's the answer to the question, why does it look like this? Does anyone know?
Streamlining.
Well, there is a fair amount of streamlining. Again, it's partly wartime.
Is it mine?
Right, it is, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is monocoque, isn't it? Yeah, turn into my technical expert. So this first appeared in 48, right, immediately post-war. It was designed by a person called Ferry Porsche, right, Ferry Porsche. His father was Ferdinand Porsche. Ferdinand Porsche was a busy man. He founded Volkswagen and designed the Beetle. So father and son combination here, right? The father founds the company, designs the car. The son, Ferry, says, I'll have a go at a sports car with it, but actually started with Beetle underpinnings. It started with 1100cc, right? So, and it was successful. It began in 48, this was the last year, so 17 years. This was the car that really made Porsche's name in the USA. Really successful. So this sold in total about 76,000 over 17 years, mostly in the USA, and then Porsche and racing became part of the same sentence, so to speak. This established Porsche's name in racing, and they're still strongly associated with racing all around the world, clearly. Very successful car. So this is a really important car for Porsche, but it was not without its drawbacks. I mean, this is air-cooled 1600cc, performance about the same as the TR4A. So about 11 seconds to 60, not especially fast. Now, so the choice is, and I think I know which way this is going to go. You can either have two of those, just under 1,000, or one of these.
No contest.
TR4.
Two TR4s. Is there no one go for this?
Reminds you too much of the Beetle when you look at it.
It does a bit, but in some people's eyes, this is a design icon. This is on posters, this car. Yeah, it is. It is.
Take your word for it.
People love it. It's a real Marmite car. I think in all the talks I've done, I've probably had about 6 or 10 people who really like this. And boring, that word's going to stick in my mind. Okay. So a couple of little quirky bits. Why is it called 356? Well, Porsche was a very rational, logical person. He numbered each project, whether it was a car or whether it was a small gearbox modification. By 1948, he got to number 356. That was the name of the car. And then he just named them A, B and C. I mean, what else would you do? And when he got to 901, he decided to replace this. So they built a 901. In fact, they built about 70 901s, similar design. And then Peugeot came along and said, no, you can't call them anything O with 3 numbers in it. Peugeot 204, 208. Yeah, in fact, Peugeot's still using those numbers now. So they said to Porsche, no, we've got a trademark on those numbers. What you're going to have to do is call it something else. So being a very logical man, you know what he did? He crossed out the 0 and put a 1 in. So the 911 was born. And it's still around. You know, when was the 911 launched? 63, 64 or something like that. And here we are, 60 odd years later, it's still selling in massive numbers. Basic, same design, okay, water cooled engine, all the rest of it. So, interesting little background story, but it's not getting a lot of support. I'm worried about the final car.
Was there a soft
Yeah, there was. Yeah, in fact, they worked a lot of different variants of this, and if anyone's heard of James Dean, the actor, he was killed driving a Porsche, which was a sort of cousin to this car. What was called a Sportster, 550 Sportster. So the car achieved a bit of notoriety in the States. It was associated with celebs. Porsche and celebs and racing went together. Okay, I'm worried about the last car. Let's go and have a look. So this is our last car, the Datsun 240Z. Right, and sometimes I have younger members of the audience and they'll go, Datsun, what's Datsun? You know, it sounds very down market and whatever. But if I said to you, this is one of the most important Japanese cars ever made, one of the most important sports cars ever made, suddenly it takes on a different view, different perspective. So, if I say Datsun to you and talk about cars in the 60s and 70s, what's your response?
Cars.
Rust, yeah. Cheap. What type of cars were they?
Just little tiny things.
That's it. Yeah, tiny little things, what we might call a city car, yeah, they were all those things. So Datsun wanted to change things, not just in the UK, but they wanted to change things in the US. Let's not forget US, massive market. The Brits had been over there and really done well. The Japanese really fancied their chances. Let's not forget Japanese car industry was slow to start up post-war. They were restricted for a long period of time, as indeed Germany was as well. They wanted to make an impact in the US. Why did they use the Datsun name? Well, they did not want the associations that Nissan had with wartime, especially in this country in the US. Yeah, you know, we're talking about a period of, 20 odd years. The war had only been finished 20 odd years in the mid-late 60s. Therefore they used the name Datsun, which didn't have those associations. So, what do you think of the styling of this little car?
GT fastback.
It's is it a sports car or is it a GT? Any influences here?
Bit of Jag.
Bit of Jaguar, isn't there? We were stood next to the E-Type, weren't we, in the foyer? Bit of Jaguar E-Type, long bonnet, recessed headlights. Any other influences? No?
A little bit Mustang.
There's a bit of Mustang going on at the back here, all right, and a bit of Ferrari, right? When you go and see the Ferraris, look at the grille arrangement. All right. Now, this is quite a car because they targeted it at the American market. You say, why does it look like this, Nick? Well, it looks like this because they did their market research. The Japanese studied the American car industry. What was successful? The Mustang was successful, especially the fastback version of the Mustang. Everyone wanted one of those. And they're designing this in the mid-late 60s. Okay, let's start with a clean sheet of paper and design it for the needs of the Americans. And they came up with this in-house design, and when people own British sports cars, much the same today, they don't generally use them every day. I mean, Jeff's TR4A spends half its life in the garage. Yeah? It's a weekend summer car. They wanted a car that was an everyday sports car. You could get in it every day, turn the key, it would start, right? MGs and Triumphs didn't, I'm tread gently here, didn't always start, or they lost a few bits and pieces along the way and oil fell out of it and stuff. Yeah? But let's get the looks right, let's get the reliability right. We'll have a look in a moment, let's get the engine right. And the practicality, and Jeff's going to do the honours because I think Jeff's the only one who can open up the back of this. It's a hatchback or a liftback, right? And there's a large, you can look later on, there's a large area of luggage space there. You could use it every day. People did use it every day. So what we've got here is this practical car with this hatchback, designed mid-late 60s. We're not talking about something from the 80s. That went well. So good design, good reliability, plenty of power. Now you've got to get the price right. Japanese got the price right. Cheaper than a Corvette, which was, quotes, America's sports car. Half the price of a Porsche 911. This was a good price. It was the same price as an average passenger family saloon. Yet you could get one of these. And it really looked the part. 2 years they sold 150,000. 10 years they sold 500,000. We're talking about success here, and the Americans just loved these things. Used a lot for racing, all that kind of thing. Now, Jeff's going to try and prise the bonnet open for me because I can never do this. Right, if we shuffle down, don't forget that bit.
It does stay up on its own, but it's more secure with that.
If we shuffle down a bit, come round and have a look and see what's going on under here. Thank you for coming along on the talk. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you also for supporting the museum charity. Please enjoy the rest of your visit by looking at some of the other exhibits.